Trail markers are simple. White blazes mean maintained trail, blue means spur trail, yellow means you're near a boundary. Every color has a meaning, a purpose, a map reference. Except red. Red trail markers aren't in our system. They're not on our maps. They're not maintained by Park Service personnel. But they're out there, hundreds of them. And when hikers ask us what they mean, we're instructed to say, follow official trail markers only. We never explain why. Because the official explanation doesn't exist. The group was already restless when Ranger Thomas Chen flipped the laminated map onto the table. Morning light slanted through the windows of the Olympic National Forest Ranger Station, catching on bootlaces, metal water bottles, bright new backpacks. 10 hikers, most of them weekenders, stared at him with that mixture of eagerness and impatience he saw every summer. "All right," Chen said, tapping the legend at the bottom of the map. "Quick trail marker refresher before you head out." He had done this 1,000 times. His voice settled into the cadence of practiced explanation. "White blazes are your main trails," he said. "They're maintained, signed, and regularly patrolled. Blue blazes are spur trails, side routes to overlooks, lakes, or connecting trails. Yellow indicates boundary markers. If you see yellow, you're near the edge of designated areas. Don't cross without a permit." He paused, letting eyes track over the colors. White rectangles, blue squares, yellow diamonds. Simple, controlled, understood. A hand went up in the back. A man in a brand new range shell, probably mid-30s, tilted his head. "Yeah, quick question. Yesterday, up near the Graves Creek lot, I saw these red paint rectangles on a couple trees. Same size as the white ones. Are those like older trail markers or something?" The room went very still. Chen kept his expression neutral. He knew exactly where those red blazes were. He had their coordinates memorized. He knew which hikers had asked the same question before this man, and how many of them had come back late, shaken or not at all. His answer came out smooth, the way it always did. "There are no official red trail markers in Olympic National Forest," he said. "If you see any, treat them as vandalism or logging marks. Please stay on the marked trails, white, blue, and yellow only." The man nodded, satisfied enough. Pens scratched on permits. People went back to fumbling with gear. In Chen's head, another sentence sat like a weight. "We've been tracking them for 15 years. When the group dispersed, forms turned in, trail maps folded and shoved into pockets. Chen hung the laminated sheet back on its hook and turned to the wall behind his desk. The official map was mounted there, the size of a door, the kind they printed for visitor centers. It showed the forest from above, valleys and ridges shaded in green, rivers like silver threads, trails marked in precise colored lines. At the bottom right, in polite government font, the legend repeated what he had just said out loud. White, maintained trail. Blue, spur trail. Yellow, BOUNDARY. Just under the plastic along the bottom edge, someone had once pressed a red ballpoint pen hard enough to scar the paper. Red, do not follow. No stamp, no code, no explanation. Chen's gaze shifted to the lower shelf of the bookcase, where a thick black binder sat between soil survey reports and avalanche forecasts. Its label was handwritten in block letters. Unclassified Trail Anomalies. Internal use only. He pulled it out, the spine creaking as it opened. Inside, plastic sleeves held printed photos, red rectangles on damp cedar bark, red rectangles on slick rock, red rectangles on old boundary posts no one used anymore. Each image was dated, time-stamped, GPS coordinates printed neatly beneath. The earliest section was labeled LWHA, 2009. The pages smelled faintly of printer toner and damp paper, the scent snapping him back to stories he'd been told. logs he'd read. To the summer when all of this stopped being an oddity and became a problem. Back to when they stopped pretending it was a local prank. Summer 2009. Elwha River Trail. Rangers Marcus Webb and Elena Vasquez walked in single file, GPS units blinking in their hands. Their task had been simple, on paper. Convert decades of analog maps into precise digital trail data. Walk the route, log points every few meters. Confirm that every white blaze matched the legacy diagrams that had lived in filing cabinets since the 1960s. For most of the morning, everything lined up. White rectangles appeared exactly where they were supposed to, eye level, facing the direction of travel, spaced at regular intervals. The GPS tracks traced a graceful, predictable line. Then Webb stopped. He was not a man who spooked easily. He had done time in other parks, Silver Ridge among them, and seen his share of oddities, but something about the color caught his eye. The blaze on the Douglas fir ahead was the right size, 2 inches wide, 6 inches tall, clean edges, no drip marks. It sat 5.5 feet from the ground, on the side of the trunk facing the trail. But it wasn't white. It was a deep, dried blood crimson, with the subtle shine of oil-based paint catching in the low forest light. Vasquez almost walked into him. "Problem?" "Map says there's no junction here," Webb murmured. He checked the paper map, then the GPS. "And no alternate trail." They noted the coordinates. Continued another 50 feet. Found a second red blaze, this one angled slightly off to the right, as if nudging hikers away from the main path. Over the next 3.2 miles, they logged 14 red blazes. Everyone matched the dimensions of a standard trail marker. Everyone led away from the maintained Elwha Trail and into an unmapped drainage where no official route had ever existed. Webb's field log, which Chen had read enough times to remember lines by heart, was clipped into the binder in front of him. Red painted blazes, 14 count. No corresponding trail on legacy maps, ORGIS. Paint type, oil-based, non-standard. Application, professional, CONSISTENT. Pattern suggests coherent route, not random vandalism. Recommendation, investigate origin. Remove unauthorized markings. They sent the report up the chain. Within 48 hours, word came back from other districts. Lisa Nakamura in the North Cascades reported 47 identical red blazes along Thunder Creek Trail. Same size, same placement, same wrong shade. Sophia Reyes reported 23 in Quinault Rainforest, lined up like a secret path nobody had authorized. 3 districts, 80-plus red markers, 1 week. The regional coordinator's voice on the conference call had been clipped and careful. "Whoever's painting these knows our system," she said. "They're using our dimensions, our placement rules, just not our colors." They argued about vandalism, about rogue guide groups, about logging crews freelancing their own routes. They sent samples of scraped red paint to labs, which sent back dry chemical breakdowns and unhelpful phrases like high durability formulation. In the end, a short email went out to select inboxes. Subject: unofficial red trail markers. Document only. No public communication. Chen turned the page in the binder. More photos, more dates. The hikers he'd just briefed started laughing about something in the parking lot. Voices faint through the open window. Car doors slammed. Engines turned over. He slid the binder shut as footsteps approached, returning it to the shelf with studied casualness. Visitors stepped back inside for a last-minute map or a bear canister. Chen handed them what they asked for, answering their questions about weather and river crossings, about how long it really took to make the loop. He did not mention the red markers. As they left again and the station door swung closed, he looked once more at the handwritten warning beneath the map. Read, "Do not follow." We didn't discover them in 2009, he thought. That was just the year we stopped pretending they weren't there. Equals the trails that don't come back. Rachel Soto signed her name with the quick, confident stroke of someone who'd filled out a dozen wilderness permits before. Graves Creek to Enchanted Valley, she said, smiling as she handed the clipboard back across the counter. Back by Sunday afternoon. Ranger Thomas Chen checked the form, then looked up. She was in her mid-20s, athletic, the kind of hiker who packed light but knew what she was doing. Rain shell, topo map, first aid kit clipped to her pack strap, prepared. "You've done this route before?" "Twice," she said. "Thought I'd try a longer loop this time. Oh, and hey, one more thing." She leaned a little closer, lowering her voice as though sharing a secret. "What's the deal with the red trail marks near Graves Creek? They look like shortcuts, but they're not on my map." Chen's pen stopped moving. "They're not official," he said. "Stay on the white blazes." Her smile faltered, just for a second. "Okay, sure." She left at 9:15 a.m., waving as she disappeared down the gravel path toward the trailhead. Chen watched her go, that same dull weight settling in his stomach, the one he felt every time someone mentioned red paint. She didn't come back. By the time the sun dropped behind the ridgeline the next evening, she was 18 hours overdue for check-in. Her car still sat in the trailhead lot, dew clinging to the windshield. At dawn, search and rescue mobilized. Day 1. Teams swept the maintained Graves Creek Trail, white blazes gleaming faintly against the firs. Nothing. No footprints, no discarded gear, no sign she'd ever left the main route. Day 2. Mid-morning, a team radioed in a find backpack located 1.7 miles off-trail in a steep drainage. Inside, food, water, map, headlamp, neatly coiled rope, no sign of struggle, no animal damage. Above the pack, on the trunk of a cedar, a single red blaze. 2 inches by 6, fresh paint, still glossy in the weak sunlight. No footprints led to or from the site. The moss was damp, thick, undisturbed except for where the pack had rested. Chen arrived just before dusk, kneeling beside the gear. "This is hers," he said quietly. The air smelled faintly metallic, like iron after rain. Day 3. Following the red blazes proved harder than expected. The slope grew steeper, the ground slick with fern and root. "Not trail grade," one of the SAR coordinators muttered. "This isn't a path, it's a trap." For nearly a mile, the red rectangles guided them deeper, each one perfectly placed at eye level, as though meant to be followed. Then, just past a narrow ravine, they stopped. No final marker, no clearing, just raw earth and silence. The K9 unit caught a scent at the last blaze, circled twice, then whined and lay down. The handler looked up, shaking his head. "Trail ends here." Rachel Sokot was never found. 2 years later, another ranger brought a man into the same station, middle-aged, dehydrated, scratched raw from brush. "Name's James Keller," Vasquez told Chen, found him staggering back onto the High Divide Trail. Keller gulped from a bottle of water, confusion flickering in his eyes. "I've only been out a few hours," he insisted. Chen glanced at his permit. "You checked in 47 hours ago." The man frowned, looking at his watch. "That can't be right. It's 11:30. Chen showed him the wall clock. "It's 10:30. Tomorrow." Keller went pale. When asked what happened, his voice trembled. "I saw the red trail. It looked quiet, so I followed it. Maybe an hour, maybe less. The markers kept showing up ahead, just far enough to keep me walking. Then nothing. Blank spots. I don't remember turning back." His GPS tracker later showed 8.3 miles traveled, impossible for the hour he claimed to remember. Navigating the unfamiliar. In the Pacific Northwest, footprints vanish fast. The forest floor is a patchwork of moss and decomposing leaves that swallow tracks within minutes of rainfall. A misplaced step can look untouched an hour later. Stress and dehydration twist time perception. Hikers in survival studies often underestimate elapsed time by more than half. Add fatigue, fading light, and isolation, and hours blur into moments. Then there's trail magnetism, the instinct to follow any visible marker, even if it isn't on the map. Human eyes crave pattern, and paint on bark feels like proof of direction. But patterns can lie. Soto's case offered no tracks, no scent beyond the last blaze. Keller's GPS proved he moved for nearly 2 days, but his memory contained only one. Both followed the same unauthorized color. Inside the ranger station that night, Chen sat before his computer, entering the new data. Soto, Rachel, status, missing, red markers present, yes. Keller, James, status, recovered, time loss, 47 HRS. He hesitated over the final column labeled trail type followed. Then he typed, red, unofficial. Outside, the rain fell steady, soft against the glass. Somewhere beyond the parking lot, past the line of tall firs, a faint red blaze gleamed through the ferns, bright, wet, and waiting. Equals beach rule. Paint that doesn't fade. Rain whispered through the trees the morning Ranger David Ortega hiked out with his crew. The forest smelled of cedar and wet earth, the air damp enough to bead on their jackets. Their task was simple, on paper anyway. Remove the red trail markers that had appeared months earlier along the Elwha River corridor. By noon, the team had located the first one, a crisp rectangle of crimson on the smooth bark of a young hemlock. Ortega touched it with his gloved hand. The surface felt dry, but the color seemed alive somehow, too vivid against the gray-green forest. "All right," he said, motioning to his partner. "Let's strip it." They brushed on a citrus-based solvent used for graffiti removal. The paint didn't move. Another ranger tried sanding it down. The red bled deeper into the wood, revealing its hold extended nearly half an inch beneath the bark. "Paint doesn't do that," Ortega muttered. By late afternoon, they changed tactics. If they couldn't remove the marks, they'd cover them. The team worked methodically, painting over each blaze with forest brown latex. By 4:30 p.m., 8 of the 14 were gone, blended neatly into the bark. Ortega recorded the result in his field log and led his team out under a light drizzle. The next morning, they returned to finish the job. Every single covered blaze was red again. The brown latex had gone translucent overnight, the crimson shining through like blood beneath thin skin. And the 6 remaining markers, the ones they hadn't reached, were now neatly painted over in brown, their exact shade, their exact brush strokes. No one on Ortega's team had returned overnight, no other rangers were assigned to the area. He wrote later in an unofficial memo, slipped between the pages of his logbook. "We weren't just working on the markers. Something was working with us, or against us, finishing what we started." In the years that followed, Ranger Marcus Webb tried to make sense of it the only way he knew how: data. Between 2010 and 2015, he cataloged 847 individual red blazes across Olympic National Forest. He recorded each one's GPS coordinate, elevation, and distance from official trails. Over 14 months, he returned to check their positions. 73% hadn't moved. 27% had vanished. New ones appeared in previously clean sectors. By 2015, his total count reached 1,053. But it wasn't just the numbers, it was the movement. In 2009, the average red marker stood about 0.8 of a mile off the main trails. By 2015, that distance had shrunk to less than a quarter mile. "They're not just persisting," Chen said quietly when Webb showed him the maps. "They're moving toward people." Paint longevity. Under normal Pacific Northwest conditions, constant moisture, freeze-thaw cycles, bark growth, and UV light, official latex trail paint lasts between 3 and 7 years before fading or cracking. The red blazes broke every rule. Those first photographed in 2009 still looked freshly applied 15 years later. No flaking, no fading, no cracking, even markers deep in the forest, untouched by human hands for a decade, shone bright under headlamps. 2 explanations existed. Someone was secretly repainting hundreds of markers each year without ever being seen. The paint wasn't normal. Or perhaps, Chen thought, the markers weren't being repainted, they were being replaced. In the winter of 2016, a new anomaly appeared. Rangers Lisa Nakamura and David Ortega were surveying snow conditions near Solduc when they encountered a junction where 6 red markers clustered around a single bend. The trail ran true north-northwest. Their compasses, however, insisted they were facing southwest. "Check yours again," Nakamura said. Ortega flipped open his second compass. Same reading, 220 degrees. Their GPS units still read 340 degrees, unwavering. They stepped 100 feet up the trail, both compasses normalized. Back into the cluster, deviation returned, a clean 120 degrees shift. It only happened within 50 feet of the red blazes. Beyond that radius, the world obeyed its usual rules. Magnetic anomalies. Natural magnetic deviations do exist. Iron-rich rocks, volcanic basalt, or underground water flow can pull a compass needle 5, maybe 15 degrees off true north. Such anomalies are consistent, mappable, and predictable. The red marker zones weren't. Here, compass readings swung 80 to 130 degrees, wildly, erratically, and only within tiny pockets. Geological surveys showed no iron deposits in the area, no volcanic rock, no power lines. The conclusion was unsettling. Either the paint contained magnetic material or the markers were being placed on top of something that emitted its own field, something no one had charted. That night, Chen stared at the overlapping maps spread across his desk. Red dots glowed against pale contour lines, forming clusters that pulsed like living veins. Missing person cases, time loss reports, marker locations, each set overlapped with eerie precision. He wasn't sure if the data frightened him more for what it revealed, or for what it implied. Ranger Webb had once written in the margin of his notebook, "We think we're mapping paint. We might be mapping where the forest wants people to go." Under the beam of Chen's headlamp, a single red blaze glimmered at the edge of the dark, rain running down its face like tears. He held up his compass. The needle spun once, twice, then stilled, pointing nowhere. "The red markers don't fade," he murmured. "They don't rot. They don't stay put." He turned away, the forest silent behind him. "Trails are supposed to be stable," he said. "These aren't trails, they're invitations." Equals 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 equals. The database. The database no one admits exists. The ranger station was dark, except for the soft glow from Chen's computer monitor. The rain had long since stopped, leaving a faint mist clinging to the windows. Outside, the forest hummed, wind, insects, something else that never quite made a sound you could name. Chen leaned closer to the screen, eyes tired but focused. Rows of cells stretched across his monitor, each entry part of a database no one admitted existed. Folder, red marker incidents, internal use only. Each tab had its own story. Disappearances, 7. Time loss events, 12. Compass anomalies, 34. Marker migration, 214 documented moves. It wasn't officially sanctioned, but everyone knew he kept it. When someone needed a pattern or a name without asking the wrong question, they came to Chen. He clicked open the Disappearances tab. Rachel Soto, 2010, never found. Last known location near Graves Creek. Backpack recovered below Red Blaze. Michael Torres, 2013, missing. Trail cam footage. Subject leaves white trail at 1642. Follows direction of Red Blaze. No further footage. No recovery. Sarah Kim, 2015, found deceased, 8.1 miles off maintained trail, position fetal, resting beneath lone Red Blaze. Investigators noted no sign of trauma. 4 other names followed, blurred by time and bureaucracy. Each linked to the same note, red markers documented within 72 hours before event. He switched to the Time Loss tab, 12 rows. Each one marked by the same eerie symmetry, 8 to 47 hours unaccounted for, GPS tracking continuous, no gaps in motion. Subjects remembered hiking for an hour or two. The logs proved days. Then compass anomalies, dozens of entries across 4 national forests. Some from rangers, some from hikers, who'd filed confused online reports later buried in public archives. Location, Sol Duke region, compasses deviating 120 degrees. North Cascades, 105 degrees. Gifford Pinchot, 94 degrees. Each reading spiked within 50 feet of red marker clusters. Finally, the last sheet, marker migration. The trend line rose in quiet defiance of logic. Fewer blazes deep in the backcountry, more near busy trailheads and parking lots. As if the forest were pushing them closer. Chen scrolled back through years of logs, cross-checking timestamps. His mind worked the problem the way he always had. Patterns, timing, clusters. He wasn't looking for one missing hiker anymore. He was looking for what connected them all. He began layering events, marker appearance dates, disappearance reports, field logs. And then, slowly, the rhythm emerged. Rachel Soto vanished 48 hours after 4 new red blazes were documented near Graves Creek. Michael Torres disappeared 36 hours after 7 new blazes appeared along Dos Wallops Trail. Sarah Kim's body was found 68 hours after 11 new markers appeared near the Ho River. 3 different locations, 3 different years, the same window. Chen sat back. His heart was beating faster than it should have been. It wasn't geographic, it was temporal. He whispered it aloud just to make it real. The red trail doesn't lead to one place, it leads to the next place it's going. When new markers appeared, that area became active. A 72-hour window, that was when it was hungry. How patterns should work. In search and rescue, pattern analysis usually means following people's behavior. You map where the lost were last seen, where terrain funnels movement, where logic and panic collide. The models predict decisions. Most hikers circle back. Some head downhill toward water. Others cling to visible markers. But Chen's spreadsheet broke every rule of human behavior. The clustering wasn't about what people did. It was about when the markers appeared. In normal SAR analysis, a cluster of incidents means danger tied to geography. Here, it meant danger tied to time. Most trails connect places, Chen murmured. These connect events. He opened another document, an internal memo buried in the shared drive. Do not discuss red markers with the public. Use neutral language. GPS recommended. Unstable terrain. Stay on marked trails. Redirect inquiries to official routes. In the margin of a printed copy on his desk, someone, Webb, probably, had scribbled a note in pencil. We're not hiding the markers from people. We're hiding the fact that we can't control them. Chen glanced at the clock on his monitor. 12:07 a.m. He clicked into the newest entry, November 16, 2024. New markers logged. 5 location, 0.3 miles from Sol Duke trailhead. That was close. Too close. He highlighted the row in yellow, then tagged it. 72-hour watch. The forest outside was utterly still, the kind of silence that pressed against the glass. He leaned back in his chair and let the words settle in his mind, words he didn't want to believe but couldn't ignore anymore. We thought the red trail was a path. It's more like a schedule. Equals. The warning we can't give. The camera light blinked red, and Chen straightened his hat. Across from him, the documentary host smiled, the friendly, practiced kind. "So, Ranger Chen," she began, "what do the red markers mean?" He gave the same careful smile he'd used 100 times before. "Red markers are not official trails. Please stay on marked routes." Click. "Camera off," the producer nodded. "Great. We'll cut that with some B-roll of the forest." He watched them leave, their laughter fading down the gravel path. Later that same day, a hiker at the trailhead asked the same thing. "Hey, are the red ones shortcuts?" "Not official," he said again. "Stick to white or blue." That night he opened his email. A message from a wilderness forum read, "Ranger Chen, can you confirm whether the red trail markers are connected to recent disappearances?" He typed, then deleted, then finally replied, "Red markers are not maintained by the Park Service. Please stay on marked trails." It was always the same answer, the safest thing he was allowed to say. Not the safest thing he could say. He flipped open his private field log, the one he never turned in with the official reports. The entries inside told the truth. Red markers. Appear and disappear with intent. Lead hikers into zones of time loss, compass failure, and disorientation. Cluster around magnetic anomalies no geologist can explain. Expand slowly toward the edges of the known trail system, as if testing the boundaries. And the Park Service? They couldn't remove them, at least not permanently. They couldn't explain who made them or prove they were natural. Every attempt to confront the phenomenon ended with silence from above and reassignment for whoever pushed too hard. He wrote it plainly this time. If we admit we have a parallel trail system in our forests, one we didn't build, can't erase, and can't map, people will realize we're not in control here. Not the way they think we are. Earlier that season, Chen had taken a new recruit out on patrol, fresh out of college, bright-eyed, eager. She asked about the rumors before they even reached the trailhead. "Do the red markers really mean something?" He stopped walking. "Officially, no." "Unofficially," he sighed. "Don't talk about them publicly. Log every one you see. If they start appearing near a popular trail, increase patrols for the next 72 hours. Never follow them alone. And never after 6 p.m. She frowned. "Why 6? "Because that's when the light goes." He paused. "And when the forest gets quiet enough that you might start hearing things that sound like your own voice." She said nothing for a long time. "If a hiker tells you they followed the red trail," he continued, "treat it like a medical emergency. They're not just lost. They're disoriented. You need to get them out fast." The recruit nodded, her earlier excitement dimming to respect. "You're not just enforcing park rules," Chen said. "You're keeping people away from something we can't negotiate with." Educational insert. When the trail markers look wrong. Chen kept a laminated checklist tucked into his field journal. 1. Trust the official legend. White, blue, yellow. If you see another color, treat it as unreliable. 2. Double-check with analog tools. Use a compass, map, and watch together. If your compass needle starts drifting near any strange marking, backtrack immediately. 3. Watch for time drift. If your sense of time doesn't match your watch, stop, hydrate, turn around, return to your last known safe point. 4. Stay on maintained trails. The Pacific Northwest hides cliffs and river cuts under moss and ferns. Going off trail is slow, silent, and deadly. 5. Report strange markings, but don't follow them. Even if the rangers sound dismissive, they'll log it. They'll know what it means. At midnight, Chen sat at his desk one last time, the rain whispering on the roof. He opened his log and wrote the closing entry. We didn't paint the first trails in these forests. We just marked the ones we understand. The red markers belong to something older, or something patient. Dusk settled over Olympic National Forest. Somewhere far up the trail, a lone hiker reached a fork in the path. To the left, a white blaze pointed toward a well-trodden ridge. To the right, half hidden by lichen, a faint red rectangle gleamed against the bark. The hiker hesitated. Remembered the ranger's dull, bureaucratic warning, stay on official marked trails. After a moment, they turned toward the white blaze. The forest exhaled. Behind them, the red marker gleamed once, catching the last of the fading light. If you ever see red trail markers in these woods, don't follow them. Not because we forbid it, because we don't know where they end. And if you go where we can't follow, we may never find you in the time you think you are gone.